Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, Sasha.
Thank you for doing this interview with me. This is
Thank
exciting.
you for having me. It is exciting.
So, this is one in a long series of interviews. And just like we talked about before we just started, um, thinking about the fact that during my counseling training and my coaching training, I actually never heard stories of therapists talking about their experience of building their private practice. It was mostly a conversation about how can we be as helpful as possible to clients, but not really how do we build the business that can allow us to work with clients if that's what we choose. And you have done a great work at that. So I'd love to hear about your experience. So maybe a good place to start is who you are, who you help, and how.
Yeah. Well, I'm Rebecca. Most people call me Becca. And I'm a therapist in Denver. I'm a licensed professional counselor and a licensed marriage and family therapist. Tomorrow, I complete my certification to be a certified intuitive eating counselor. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And I just turned in my application to be an AMFC approved supervisor. So that gives you a little bit of a taste of all the things that I do. But I'm in full-time private practice and I work with quite a few different populations, but I specialize in millennials. So the age range, I mean, we could debate on what that means, but somewhere born between 1982 and 1992 is my sweet spot, I would say. Just because I think generationally, and I think that different generations bring different things to therapy. But I work with couples who want to figure out how to have a deeply connected relationship that is also egalitarian. And I think that the reason I say millennials is often they didn't really have a model for that. Even if
Yeah.
their parents thought that they were egalitarian, they probably weren't. There's a lot of gender roles that are deeply tied in and that end up causing a lot of conflict in millennial couples. And then I love working with women who want to heal their relationship with food and body image. Yeah, so those are my two favorite things to do.
Wonderful. And how long have you been in private practice?
Yeah, so I've had a private practice for 10 years. This is my 10th year in private practice, but
Decade.
I know, but it's only been full time. And this will be part of my story and part of my advice for people in practice, because I've only been full time for about 4 years. For the first 6 years, I had another job, which I believe was holding me back.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. If you think about the milestones in your private practice, how did it start? What actually led you to thinking about, well, maybe it's time to do solo?
Yeah. I think, I think that I was lucky to have people in my life who pushed me. I was kind of in a role at my full-time job where I was encouraging a lot of clinicians to go do private practice and to be successful. And I believed that, and I do believe that as helpers, it's easy to take on kind of a martyr role of I will help, but I won't take care of myself.
Yeah.
And I was doing that. I was working in a job that wasn't paying me well, didn't have benefits, and I was encouraging all these other people to go full-time private practice. And one person I was helping sat in my office and she said, "Well, why aren't you doing it?" and it was a clear
What was
sign
the
to me that it
answer?
was time. I think for me, there's a lot of things. I think there's a messaging as a helping professional that we should just be selfless and not earn, which is interesting. And I also think I was raised in a very middle-class family. And I never saw that a woman could be an earner. Like that wasn't something that was modeled for me. And so I kind of didn't see it for myself, not consciously, but unconsciously kind of thought what I was doing was what my life would be.
Mm-hmm.
Not making very much money and working really hard.
Yeah.
and so I think that block was there. And I think once I began to have models in my life, especially of women who were earning, six figures in
Mm-hmm.
my profession, I thought, wait a minute, I think that I could do that.
Yeah. So it really starts with the mindset, which starts with actually seeing real examples of
Mm-hmm.
people that combine those seemingly unconnected boxes, right? Helping others and thriving yourself. And it's
Yes,
possible to do together. And actually, yeah, maybe as a clinician, I'm not doing my clients any favors if I'm undercharging, burnout, right?
exactly.
And I wish my day would just end already, right? At the beginning of the day.
Exactly. You just synthesized everything I said beautifully.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
as if there's like the romantic idea of the starving musician, saying with like the
Yes.
starving clinician, right?
Yes. The starving clinician. Yes.
And nothing romantic about that.
Yeah. And societally, I think we think that the helpers are okay with not taking care of themselves. And I think that's a
Hmm.
really, that's a good mentality if you just want to be burnt out.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
what other people were encouraging you? You ask yourself the question: what actually well, pushed you over the line of, okay, today I'm taking this step that would be actually a symbol of I started.
Well, that's a good question. I think it was just time. I think
Mm.
it was kind of if I don't do this now, I mean, truly the adage, if not now, when?
Hmm.
Like what will waiting gain me,
Yeah.
right? Because the feeling of being ready, and this is a concept I apply in other places of my life. I I think that's a really interesting concept of we should be ready, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that means, right? I mean, um, I don't think there is an equation that says, okay, now you are ready for private practice. Now you're ready for
Yeah.
full-time private practice.
Uh-huh.
I think you have to more ask, what are you wanting to do with your life? And are you doing it?
Mm. Yeah. So you're saying that there won't be like a lightning one day that will
Mm-hmm.
strike you with this understanding that now you're ready, right? It's actually taking action first and then.
Yeah. And I use this quote, or I use this saying with my clients a lot. And then I applied it to myself, which is, we choose one of two paths, Sasha. We choose comfortable misery,
Mm.
or we choose painful growth. And so
Mm.
often people
Love
stay in
it.
comfortable misery. I know, because they
I'm
both they
totally
both kind
gonna
of
borrow
suck.
it from you if you don't mind.
Please do. I
Yeah.
borrowed it from someone else. So we you know both suck. Both are painful.
Mm-hmm.
But people choose comfortable misery because they know what's there. But the choice to choose painful growth is courageous, and at least there's light,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's light at the end. Well, not that I ever think there's an end. I don't think we ever, quote unquote, arrive.
Yeah.
But so I think it was the choice to choose painful growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because and painful meaning I wasn't sure if I'd be able to pay my bills, right? I was
Yeah.
losing the security of a salaried job.
Mm-hmm.
But the growth piece is doing what I always wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, what does it give you being in private practice versus full-time job? What are the
Every,
benefits? The
everything.
disadvantages, like people are very clear on when they think about going into private practice, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. So what does it give me?
Mm-hmm.
It gives me freedom,
Uh-huh.
right? I design my own schedule. I think the other big thing it gives me the freedom to say how much I want to make a year.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Actually plan it and decide for
yeah.
yourself, right?
Yeah. I say,
Mm-hmm.
this is how much I'm going to make, and here's how I'm going to get there. And then you get there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get to work with the clients that I want to work with. And I love being my own boss, because then there isn't, for my personality, working for someone else dulls my shine as a leader,
Yeah.
right?
So
Yeah.
in
So
all
it's,
of those, like the freedom is a big piece, right? Time
mhm.
freedom, money freedom, and leadership freedom, right? You get
Yeah.
to decide how you actually help people and
Yeah.
when. Hmm.
Yeah, and I think the other big thing that I just love is it gives me relational freedom. And what I mean by that is my relationships are deeper because I have more time in my life for relationships. I
Hmm.
mean, I used to work 9 to 6, right? And so I would leave my house at 8:15 and come home at 6:30, and that doesn't leave
Mm,
a lot of time for life to happen.
yeah. Hmm.
And then there's laundry to be done and house cleaning to be done and cooking to be done. And pretty soon you're out of touch with your friends, you're disconnected from your partner.
Mm.
Not that I don't think if you work a 9 to 5, you can't have those things, but this working for myself has sure helped.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's this Groundhog Day situation where you are working, 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 but why are you doing this in the first place?
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, what about the people you love and spending time with them, and what is the
Yeah.
lifestyle that you want to have?
Yeah. And Sasha,
Hmm.
something I remember is I used to go to the gym before work, and
Hmm.
to make that happen, I had to go at like 5 a.m.
Mm,
And I remember driving to my gym. I took a class at 5. I don't know, it started at 5 or 5:30, and I thought, so this is my life. Like
mhm,
I have to get up and go to the gym. If I want to move my body, I have to wake up at a miserable time. I will like wake up at like 4:30 in the morning.
mhm.
And for what? Like, what is this all for? And
Uh-huh.
now I can schedule, if movement is important to you, which it's important to me, I can move my body. I can say, oh, I take time out of my schedule on these days to go
Mhm.
do something that helps me show up in the
Yeah,
rest of my life.
you get to decide. Yeah, I
I get
remember
to
a
decide.
similar experience being in the Israeli army, also waking up like at ridiculous times and vowing to myself, when it's my say in the future, I'll be giving myself some good sleep every night, right? And private practice is a part of it.
Yes.
So, how true were those fears that you had about, will I be able to pay my bills? Will I, and uh, what if it will all, that's a common one, crumble and fall the next month, even if I'm successful this month? How true were they?
They weren't true at all.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know that that's everybody's experience, but my practice has just continued to build.
Mm-hmm.
Every month has been better than the next. Um, and when I plateaued, I luckily was in consult groups with other therapists who
Mm-hmm.
encouraged me to do something to get out of my plateau.
Yeah. So constantly using new information and the advice of others to continue
Yeah,
growing.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I think the fear at first, sure, I was making less money than I was in my salaried job, right?
Mhm.
For the first few months, things were tighter, but that was part of the painful growth, was saying,
Yeah.
okay, I'm willing to not have as much or spend as much so that I can do this,
Yeah.
right?
Totally.
And there was a background trust that there will be a time where I'm making more than I was making my salary job, so this is worth it.
Yeah. And there's a difference between full-time job is being 40 hours and more usually, right?
Mm-hmm.
And full-time private practice considered to be 20 hours a week.
Yep.
And there's
Yep.
a reason for that. And there's definitely more free time. And yeah, if I'm earning 5 times more than my full-time job in private practice, I can work less
Yes.
and probably
Yeah.
be more helpful for clients. How do you balance? I know that you're big on social activism and making sure that uh, therapy is all inclusive. How do you balance uh, treating your private practice as a business, uh,
Mm-hmm.
figuring out all the expenses and etc., and taking care of your family together with making sure that it's available to many?
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is a question I want to continue my entire life to look
Mm-hmm.
at. Um, so currently, I have a few spots that are reserved for adjusted fee clients. So I see students at an adjusted affordable rate. And then I have a few spots that I see clients pro bono. And I don't bend that. So let's say hypothetically there's 6 spots for adjusted fee. I don't extend it to a 7th and an 8th and a 9th because I know how many full paying clients I need. And then the other piece is that I volunteer and a lot of my time at a nonprofit counseling center. So I have to trust that there are therapists who, and it's not a perfect system. I think there's many flaws in the system, but there are therapists and therapy training centers that offer quality therapy for lower fee. And I want to ensure that quality therapy exists. But I can't personally take on the onus of making sure that therapy is accessible to all people via my own person. Right? I can be heavily involved in other systems. And another thing I did was I joined the board of the Colorado Association for Marriage and Family Therapy for 2 years so that I could be involved in the legislation for mental health care. So I think those are 3 ways that I touch on accessibility. And then the other thing I do is I host a podcast, my own podcast.
How can people find it, by the way?
Oh, yeah. It's called Two Therapists in Therapy. I co-host it with a brilliant therapist, Sarah Brill. And while it's not a replacement for therapy, our hope is to offer thoughts and mental health advice to a wider range of people where we talk about therapy topics. And then I'm pretty active on social media as well. Again, not a substitute for therapy services, but to offer an insight into the world of therapy and how to live a life that's more aligned with yourself. So there's all these touch points of spaces where I'm giving of myself, but not giving myself away, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. So the 2 big things that I hear, one is actually by having a successful private practice, you actually have the time and the energy to do all those extra activities. And that contribute to beyond just working one-on-one with clients, right? Because many times counselors can get stuck on that. The only way I can help is working with clients one-on-one, or one with a couple, one with a group, one, right? And the second one is it's like this modern Robin Hood distribution of wealth, right? My high-paying clients actually pay for the clients who cannot afford that in a way. Yeah, that's wonderful. So what would be your main tips for counselors who are just starting out their private practice? Let's say they made already the decision. Okay, I'm going for it, right? And cash flow being probably one of the main first goals to actually, sustain the business and having those first psychological wins in terms of clients coming in. Okay, I can do this. I can just what you said. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? What would be your advice in terms of creating clients? What are some effective ways?
Yeah, I think for me, the most effective way is building relationships with other therapists. I know in my own life, when anybody who knows me, I mean, I have family members, friends, acquaintances, people from my past who know I'm a therapist will reach out to me and say, do you have any referrals for me? I want to go to therapy. And I refer them to the therapist that I'm in contact with, right? And so, and I've found that it has worked the same way. So for me, the most important thing has been building relationships with other therapists, letting them know that I'm open, and not just in a marketing way, not just saying, hey, I'm a therapist, I'm available, but really being interested in how can we support each other in practice. Right.
So building relationships kind of organically versus quote unquote the needy ways, like can you send me clients, right? And you're leading with helping them, right? I have clients for you, and then it's reciprocated.
And so I don't know if I have a formula for that, but my guess is if somebody is a therapist, they know a thing or two about authentic relationships. And so I would just encourage them to trust that. And when it's a relationship that clicks, right? That we're
Yes,
like, oh,
yes.
we feel connected, and then being really intentional about pursuing that. And then the other big thing for me is building on that is when a group of therapists clicks is to create a consultation group that is intentional about meeting and continuing to support each other.
Yeah, totally. So it's a really good point about networking in an authentic way. In the six-figure practice program, the private accelerator, we run. We have the online marketing part, and we have the offline marketing, which is building relationships. And many people's counselors get stuck. It's easier to reach out to people they know, and it's more difficult to cold reach, right? If I want to reach out to a few psychiatrists, that might be good referral sources. How do I do that? So the advice is always lead with offering versus asking, right? It's like, I'm looking for a few psychiatrists to be able to refer clients to, right? And then it's kind of a no-brainer. Of course, they want to connect with you unless they're full.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
If we fast forward, let's say a therapist has 10 clients, right? Or it looks promising, but then they kind of get stuck at 10 clients a week, right? They can't seem to build it further. What would be your advice then? And you mentioned plateauing in your private.
Yeah. So I think a big part of it is our belief. So I would first want to explore that therapist's belief about their ability to see more clients.
Yeah.
Because I think that actually was a block for myself. I remember meeting with a therapist friend of mine. We went for a walk, and we've contracted to talk about numbers. And she said, "So how much are you bringing in a month?" And I told her, and she was like, "Becca, that doesn't make any sense. You should be making more than that." And I realized I didn't allow myself to think beyond that.
Yeah. Do you mind sharing a number? And we can break some taboos here, right? Counselors actually talking about numbers.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Yeah, we're going to break some taboos. So at first I was very comfortable, which now feels, and this is I was very comfortable bringing in like $5,000 to $6,000 a month. And she was like, "You should be bringing in more." And so she pushed me, and then I got to 8, and then I had another therapist friend that said, "You should probably be bringing in more." Right. And so the goal here, the goal would be a minimum of $10,000 a month.
Yeah.
I
so
think
6-figure practice is a good goal. Yeah. That's why I
a
called
six-figure
it
practice
that
is
way.
a good goal.
Yeah, that's why I call the private practice accelerator that way, not because it's the main goal, but it's a symbol, right? It's a great symbol of you're not undercharging. Your clients vote with their feet or with their eyes during COVID, right? And you're really serving and helping people, right? They stay, and B, they tell their friends about it, and you're respected by your colleagues, and they send clients to you, and you have all the marketing systems in place.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's a 10K number would be a good monthly income for you?
I think that's a good, I think that's a good minimum income for me, because I think that allows me to invest back into my business. It allows me to pay myself a salary that is comfortable to pay all my bills and be able to travel and be able to do the things I want to do. When you're building your own business, when you're in business for yourself, you don't want to be living paycheck to paycheck. So I think that number allows you to live a comfortable life, or begin to have financial stability of your own.
Yeah. So having a good lifestyle comfortable
Yeah.
lifestyle, and
Yeah.
also no one's paying you pension, right? And no
Yep.
one's paying you health insurance. There
Yep.
are no one's paying for your office if you have an office,
Yeah.
right? It's all of those things.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, I truly find 10,000 a month as the minimum with all of those expenses.
Hmm.
And so it makes me question how I was doing it with less. I mean,
Yes.
I just wasn't making any money, I guess.
Hmm.
Right. So it allows you to invest in your life,
Hmm.
right? Which is something I would want for all of my clients. So I need to want that for myself.
Yeah. What would you say? I remember doing a workshop about money for therapists
Mhm.
in AGP, American Group Psychotherapy Association, and we went around the circle, and people were saying their emotions related to money. Uh, Money is greed, fear, like pretty much none of it was like good, is happiness. And what would you say to a therapist that hears the number 10K and they feel, oh, this is a greedy therapist. I would never do that.
Mm-hmm. I would ask them to look at their relationship with money.
Mm,
And I would ask them to look at all of the messages, where they got there, why. I mean, I first want to come at with understanding. I get that because I was one of those therapists, right?
yep.
I mean, and
Same here.
I'm like, I just want to help people, but here's what I truly know is that I can better help people, and I can better help as a systemic therapist, as a family therapist. I think systems wise, I can better give systemically when I'm well taken care of,
Yes.
right? Because money anxiety and money fear and the complicated relationship about money, when it becomes a non-issue, you're more free. You're more
Yes.
free to be giving of your time. I'm also more free to be giving of my money,
Mm.
right?
Investing in
In
your business and your education, you mean?
Yeah, investing in my business, my education, and philanthropy as well, right? The
Mm.
ability to give a donation to a counseling center. But you also bring up a good point, investing in my own education. I remember a time where going to another training was a huge deal, a huge financial
Hmm.
commitment, right?
Yeah.
And so it made me not do a lot of those extra things that I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And the ability to sign up for a new certification or a new training without thinking and without it devastating my finances
Hmm.
benefits my clients. I am a much better therapist because
Hmm.
I can freely do whatever training I want to do.
Yeah, I love that. So you're able to help them better and help them faster, right? I
Yes.
truly believe. I remember going to the Gottman training, and this is literally the first thing that John Gottman said, that it's not enough to kind of be helpful to your clients. It needs to be
Yeah.
fast enough and big of a change enough, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
think counselors that are taking years and years to compassionately nod with their clients and give them short-term relief, airing out their problems, but change is not happening, right? I think they're not doing any real service to their clients.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That might be some radical belief here, but that's what I think, right? So, and counselors don't have budget for education. It's exactly what you're saying. Every time is a if they don't have a successful practice, it's a struggle. It's like, oh, should I go for it or should I not? Right? And for myself, I know I have 50K budget a year for education,
Great.
and I can then. It's such a privilege to. Um, USA is my third country, and like I have access to the one of some of the best minds in the world. Right? I'm one flight ticket away from like training with the best. Right? People who literally right in family therapy training with Chloe Madanans, right? And again, that was amazing. Or yeah, in couples therapy, just going and training with all the best ones,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, I feel I'm going as a counselor, and I don't feel it's a strain on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And that's what your clients are paying for, right? Is like
Mhm.
they're not spending their time doing these
Yes.
trainings and reading, and to have a therapist who is spending the time outside of session learning so I can better help you is huge. And for me to be able to do that, I need to be able to be making a living that affords me that privilege.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah. And even math wise, I'm very clear on I have higher prices for some, and I have sliding scale and pro bono slots like you
Mm-hmm.
have. And I know that I can help them reach their goal just based on my experience with 6 to 12 sessions versus years and years, right? So the math actually is on their side as well.
Yes. And I think the other thing, I just raised my prices because my group practice encouraged me to, right? And
Uh-huh.
each time I do that, I have anxiety because
Yeah.
I still have money fears.
hmm
But I think the other thing I would tell therapists is we don't have to be the therapist for everyone, right? And I think that as helpers, we sometimes think like, if I can't help this person, then I'm bad. And what does that mean? And I say, um, it's okay to not be everything to everyone.
Yes. And it's okay to say yes and versus no, right? It's like,
Mhm.
yes, it's not a good fit for us to work together. And I know two great therapists who might be.
Yep.
Here
Hmm.
are their contacts. So it's going
Absolutely.
together, right, with the community
Yeah.
versus uh,
Yeah.
quote unquote losing clients when it's not a good
Yep.
fit. Mhm.
Yeah.
So, what do you think, maybe to conclude, are the main things you learn looking back uh, from this journey of building your own business as a counselor, and maybe things that uh, you would have liked to hear or understand sooner than later?
Yeah. Yeah. You can be a good therapist and a helper and a compassionate person and still make a good living.
Mm.
Um, and you get to define what a good living is.
hmm
And if there's anxiety that comes up around that number, just like we would tell our own clients, there's work to be done there, right?
Yes.
That's worth looking at. If we're resistant, I mean, I think one of my favorite things is when I feel resistant, I need to run towards that instead of away from it.
Yes, it's a sign, right? This is something to
Yes,
work with.
yes,
I don't know if that's your experience. It's definitely been mine. I have some clients who would share their uh, biggest trauma during the first or second session, but they will not talk about money for a long, long time if I don't go there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that it's interesting. So much has become not taboo because of social media, things that
hmm
people used to not discuss, but money is still one of those things we don't discuss. And
hmm
there's such a close tie. It's interesting. The word that keeps popping up into my mind, and I think you said this, right, is selfishness and greedy. And it's
hmm
really interesting how in a capitalistic society we have so many people who are just so afraid of those things, right?
Yes.
And that we automatically assume if you are well taken care of, it's because you're selfish and greedy,
Mm.
not because you're a good, compassionate business person. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I met a lot of selfish, greedy people who were barely, making a living, and some really good, compassionate people who were, creating a real big positive impact on the world with their businesses.
Yes. Yeah. And I think, yeah, I think that's a beautiful, beautiful reframe
hmm
and a truth. And that I think the other thing I would tell practitioners is that abundance is for you, and that
mm
includes in money, that includes in your practice, that includes in
Yeah.
not just abundance in love for your clients, abundance in compassion, but also abundance of you being taken care of.
Yeah. Rebecca, this has been so helpful, and I learned a lot
Thanks,
too.
Sasha.
If therapists want to connect with you, if they want to talk to you about supervision or anything that you mentioned today, even, how can they
Yeah.
find you?
They can find me at fullbloomcounseling.com, full
Mm,
bloom, and or on social media at millennial therapist.
yeah, that's such a cool niche, by the way.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. All right, Rebecca, thank you
Thanks,
so
Sasha.
much.